All right, we're recording.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to week 3 of the Divine League podcast. My name is JuiceBoxGuy, and joining me here today is my host with the most. It's my man Axe. How are you, Axeman?
Doing just fine, Juice. What's up, guys? It's Axeman 87, and yeah, still haven't gotten paid for the. Whoa, what's going on with the? What's going on with the focus? I have no idea what just happened with the focus. Hey, we're back. We're
That
back
was a
in
dramatic
focus.
shot right there.
I don't know what just happened, but I guess it was refocusing. Anyway, we still haven't gotten paid as of recording, so the setup is still very bad. But we're
Right.
making it eventually. Everybody, I don't know what to
Yeah.
tell you.
Unfortunately, we're not salary based employees.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll get there eventually, but for now, it's gonna be pretty low quality.
Yeah, and that's the quality. It's not the quality in the production; it's the quality of the content. Today we got some good content for you. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna walk through all the schedules or all the results of the matches so far in week 3. But rather than talking about in each individual match like we have been, we're gonna do a little bit of a team overview right now, where we talk about how each of the teams have done this season, along with who they've beaten, who they've lost to, who their key players are, and their potential weaknesses in their roster. So I'm really looking forward to making a lot of people upset today. Uh, of our double digit viewers, I'm sure that I want the comments. I want you to tell me how I'm wrong. And if you agree with what I'm saying, tell me, hey, I think you might be right. I like it either way. So bring it on, baby. But are you ready to get into this, X?
I'm always ready, Juice. Let's do it.
All right, so let's walk through the divisions. We are going to go ahead and we're going to give the results of each one. So we'll start with Division One, obviously, right? So that's Indiana
Sounds good.
University, Manitoba Bisons, Gothboy Click, and World Class Esports. Now, the victors of this week were Manitoba Bisons over Indiana University in 2-1 fashion. World Class Esports beat the Gothboy Click in 2-0 fashion. And that's kind of interesting to me because Gothboy Click has gotten a lot of hype from a lot of the people in our broadcast team.
Including me, yeah.
Including you. Including the man in the psych ward himself.
Yeah, that was me in the asylum last week, but yeah, I don't know. I also kind of hyped up World Class a little bit. I didn't think they beat Goth Boy Click, but I don't know. I mean, my whole point about World Class was that they were on an upward trajectory. That they were on a steeper trajectory than I anticipated is only like a pleasant surprise to me, right? And I think it's really
Right.
cool that this happened. I didn't watch the series, so I'm not really sure how they pulled that off. But I'm happy to see them succeed. So
I gotta be honest. I did watch the series, and Goth Boy Click was just kind of outmatched in this game. It was one of those situations where it's kind of hard to have a good takeaway for World Class Esports just because of how mediocre Gothboy Click looked into them. Now that's not a diss against Gothboy Click by any means. It could have just been an off series or something like that. And I haven't seen enough of these guys yet to really have a good idea of their roster because I've only watched their one series no, I've watched two series, but the first one was also kind of weird, and they won when I didn't really think they should have. But let's go ahead. Let's start from number one, first place in the division, down to fourth place. So right now, the top of the division is Manitoba Bisons with a 2-1 record. And the only reason they have a 2-1 record is because they beat World Class Esports, who was 2-1, or who is 2-1 as well. But the head-to-head matchup obviously goes to Manitoba. So far, the only team that Manitoba has dropped to is Gothboy Click, right? And that just means that this whole division is bizarre.
yep.
They beat World Class. World Class detonated on Gothboy, and Gothboy beat Manitoba Bisons. That's just a bundle of fun where I'm from.
For sure. It's these aren't. It's not like these are best of ones either, right? I mean, these are
Right.
full on series. Teams are 2-0ing series. They are 2-0ing teams that they have no business beating in the first place. So yeah, this group is all topsy turvy, and I'm wondering. It'd be easy to say, like, is this down to, like, rosters or something? Are the rosters, like, kind of shuffling around? The answer is no, not really.
No.
So, like, I don't really know what to tell you here. The teams are all made of the same players as they were at the start of the season. I guess they just kind of leveled up, or other ones leveled down. But yeah, there's been a lot of growth so far this season. But yeah, if we're talking about Manitoba, I don't think we can not talk about Kept One, master tier player. Yeah. Holy cow, dude! This is a really good player. On like just crazy champions, right? You look at the solo queue here. It's like Mordekaiser to Cassiopeia to Nocturne. Like, these are all crazy win rates he has on these champions, and it just doesn't seem to matter what he's playing or what position even he's playing. He's just kind of dumpstering kids in solo queue. So, yeah, just an absolute terror. And I kind of put Manitoba Bisons a little bit lower in this group, but if they get anywhere in the top half of the group, it'll be because it carried them there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to give all the credit to Kept One. He's a great mid laner, without a doubt. But you can't ignore my man Alidus in the bot lane. That is one of the best AD carries in the league. Now, Kept One, in my opinion, is a top 3 AD carry. I'm sorry, mid laner, whereas Alidus is probably more like a top 5 guy. But still, like, this dude has really good pop-off potential. I've seen him carry some games by himself without anybody else stepping up on his squad. But there's good news in that as a squad around their 2 carry players in Kept One and Alidus, these guys are really good at taking one of the advantages that one of these two get for their squad and translating that into a victory. I don't think I've seen Manitoba Bisons lose from a head yet. Now, talking about some weaknesses of the Manitoba Bisons would actually be the complete opposite of everything we've said so far. So their top laner, their jungler, and their support are okay. I mean, they're okay. They'll do their job. I don't really see them as any sort of carry threat. I don't see them as taking a game. And, if Kept One and Alidus aren't performing, no one's really going to step up for them. And the other big issue that this squad kind of struggles with is if you can put them behind in the early game, and so far Gothboy Click is the only squad that has done this, they don't look very good at all. Like, I actually don't think that they're very they're so bad with the deficit that's really something that once you get into the playoff bracket, because I do expect this squad to get out of this group, once you get to the playoff bracket, that's going to be really badly exposed.
Definitely. I mean, you have to learn to play from behind, right? You can't just I mean, we had a great example of it on stream actually, and just one team got behind by so far, and they actually made the comeback. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be huge in playoffs when you can't play from behind like that. You're going to get exposed for it. People are going to come out strong. They're going to come out swinging with early game comps that they've practiced a lot and execute really well on. You're just not going to have a chance. But yeah, I think you're right. I think really, and I already said it, that Kept is really the saving grace for the squad. And I wouldn't like normally, so it's easy to say that, oh, he's the highest ranked one, he's gonna save them. It's not just that, right? He's also the mid laner, so he can have effect on basically any area of the map. If we were just talking about like Alidus as master rank or something like that, that wouldn't be as good, right? It'd be like, okay, he's got a great bot laner, but this is like towards the back end of season 10, you could play through top lane. That's a totally valid strategy. Not so much when Kept is the master player, right? I mean, he's in the mid lane. He has Galio in his solo queue. That's not something you could just be like, oh, we'll play through top lane, it'll be fine. Like, no, you won't. Right. he will come top with Galio or like Swain or something, whatever he's got in his page. Man, these are some weird champions, and just kill you over and over on cooldown. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a weakness for the team, but oh man, you gotta be like real careful about executing on that weakness, because this is still a very dangerous squad.
Yeah, so let's speaking of the other 2-1 squad of dangerous squads here, let's talk about World Class. so they. Oh, by the way, the last thing I want to say about Manitoba Bison. So they're 2-1 in record, but they're 5-3 so far in game score, and all three of their losses has come from when a team's put them behind and challenged them early. So that is something definitely to watch out for as the season progresses. But World Class Esports also 2-1. They're at second place in the group at the moment, 5-3 game score as well. So the funny thing about World Class Esports is when they fail hard. I mean, like when things aren't working out for them, it's like they're on a bus, right? And then the bus turns into that Keanu Speed movie. Remember Keanu Reeves and Speed? And then the whole thing just explodes. Although, granted, that doesn't happen. But I mean, the point is like, yeah, it completely falls apart at the seams for these guys. But they do look really solid when they do get off to those early starts. And that's why Manitoba Bisons versus World Class is going to be such a fun matchup to watch, because World Class, they have kind of a similar play style in the way where they like to scale up a little bit before they start fighting. But when they faced off against, I think it was Gothboy Click this week, there was no scaling. They just instantly got to business and started turning up from the very start. So yeah, I think that's going to be the top two in this group. Personally, is going to be Manitoba and World Class, with Gothboy Click on the outside looking in as maybe the dark horse here. But let's go ahead. Let's get a little bit deeper on World Class key player. So if you had to pick a key player from the World Class Esports roster, who would you go with? Because I know who I'm going with.
Juice, I kind of went for the low-hanging fruit on the last team by just picking the highest-ranked player, so I'm going to leave that up. I don't know if you want to take that, but I'm going to go with Where's Osama on this one.
Yeah.
He hasn't had, like, fantastic performances, I wouldn't say. Like, when this team wins a series, it's not like, Where's Osama, like, carried this through this series or whatever like that. But there is this thing that happens with this team sometimes when they're behind, and it's almost like an enemy squad forgets about the bot lane, and it's so dangerous, because in that situation, Where's Osama takes over and carries them to victory. I've seen it happen just twice so far in the 8 games they played, but I mean, you were saying they're 5-3. If they had lost those 2 games, they would not have a positive win rate, right? They might not have won some of these series, and that's why I think it's so important, is that in Season 10, it's normally okay to, like, count out an AD carry if you reasonably shut them down. Not this AD carry. Like, you have to be careful about that, because he will send a side lane, he'll farm up, he'll come back, or he'll just never be behind in the first place, and you just kind of forget about him because somewhere else is so ahead. And it doesn't happen often, because, like I was saying, Falling is a very high-ranked player. Their mid laner is very good, but when they do get behind, Where's Osama is there to, like, pick up the slack, essentially.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Where is Osama is going to be their best player. Because yeah, I mean, in their dominant games, he does his part, but it's definitely when they're behind that World Class Esports really do rally behind that ADC player. But here's my issue with that. Is I think that the biggest problem of World Class Esports, and I've been flamed on stream for this, I'm sure I'll get flamed, in the comments or whatever. I don't like Fly. I don't think he's a very good player. Now, granted, he's a better player than I'll ever be, but
right,
I'm just saying from a straight up analytical point of view, he is my number 16 support of the starters. Like he is such a liability when he can't get thrown on one of these champions that really only rely on him buffing up Where's Osama. If they try to put him on a playmaker, he can be a slight liability in times. And so far, the only champion I've really seen him pop off on is Yuumi. And Yuumi is just a 7th item, right? Like, It's not it's not like Yumi's gonna go and solo carry a game. So I don't know. I think that the big question mark on this team is if Fly can step up, then where is Osama's going to be potentially the best AD carry in the league. But if Fly doesn't step up, then I'm really worried for how this squad is going to do come, even in the coming weeks.
For sure, yeah. I think another important thing when we're talking about Fly is that season 10, especially, is like we're getting back towards Worlds and stuff, and the meta starts revolving around what the pros are doing as people start paying more attention to pro and start watching Worlds and stuff like that. Is that the higher up you go in skill, all the way up into pro, support is valued like more and more and more, right? Up to the point when you're up at the teams that go to Worlds will like last pick support. The supports are shot calling, like all of this stuff, and it's like a huge role. I don't know if Fly can live up to that like expectation of supports necessarily. I think he's a great support, but I don't know if he's like a team carrying level support, right? I don't know if he's like I don't know, like a core JJ type deal, but at this elo, I think he's more just kind of really solid on a couple picks, and he has some good chemistry with Where's Osama. Where it kind of falls apart for me, excuse me, is when a team really starts throwing bans at Fly. Then things start getting real hairy, and I think the one game we saw him do really well on Yumi was actually because he'd had like Thresh and Nautilus banned away from him. And he ended up doing really well on Yumi, but I don't know. I don't think we've seen Fly have like 3 or 4 bans levied against him yet. I don't think he can actually like play the role if he's taken like enough champs away from him, because I don't know, man. I'm just not seeing like on the solo queue. I'm not seeing in the league or anything. He kind of like one tricks the Thresh and the Nautilus in the league so far, and we see him on the Yumi from time to time too, but I'm in the same boat as you, man. I'm like, man, if all you could do is play Yumi well, I don't know about it. What I will say about Fly though, because I don't think he's the worst support in the league, is that like he doesn't hit like every Thresh hook. But when he hits them, they're like crazy. They're like really crazy. And it's like, Fly, how did you hit that? Like, why haven't you been hitting those all game or something like that? And he'll actually like make huge objective plays off hooks and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It is kind of interesting watching Where's Osama have like fantastic games, and then like Fly just like misses 3 hooks in one team fight or something like that. It's kind of like, what? What's going on?
Yeah, it's like the tale of two cities in the same bot lane.
Yeah.
But all right. Let's go ahead. Let's keep the boat rolling. And go to the third place squad in Division 1. And in my opinion, honestly, I do think they're the weakest squad. But Indiana University technically is sitting in third place right now because they do have the head-to-head matchup against Gothboy Click. And they're both sitting at a 1-2 record with an overall record of Indiana University at 4-4. And just to be completely frank here, I think back when they played Dark Pulse, it made Indiana University look a lot better than they were. But now that Gothboy Click is in town, this group just got a lot harder straight off the bat. But the thing with Indiana University is they're the sort of squad, they are very jungle reliant. They need the Tarians to get going, right? And if the Tarians can't have a big game, nothing gets done for these guys. Now, Amended's a really good AD carry. But the problem is, you're in Division 1. There's a lot of good AD carries in this division, right? We have Alidus, we have Where's Osama, and Amended, right? And I don't even know if I would say Amended is necessarily better than these other 2 AD carries. And I don't even know about Gothboy Click because I don't know enough about them yet to really give them a super fleshed out analysis. But I'm just saying, like, I just think that Indiana University has a lot of there's good things about them, but none of the good things are as good as the good things about World Class and Manitoba Bisons. And I think the bad things is that they're so inactive without the Tarians doing, basically doing everything, that it's just if they shut Tarians down, this squad just kind of they have no identity.
For sure, and that really in Season 10 is not a good way to play League of Legends at all. I mean, if you talk to any jungler, the story of Season 10 is best summed up as just like, man, I'm a jungler. I'm so important to the game, but I feel useless. Like,
right.
I'm not. excuse me. I'm never in a position where I can carry, and they kind of fix it a little bit by putting more experience back in the jungle, but never to the point where it was like, I'm gonna pick just some massive jungler and we see that. I mean, Elise is out of the meta, all these champions are out of the meta. I think like things like J4 and Nidalee haven't felt as good as they have in seasons gone by, and it's because that like the jungler role isn't supposed to carry, at least not the way the game is played in season 10 right now. So yeah, if you're assembling your team and you're like, okay, our jungler is the best player, you're like, okay, he better get a lot of dragons because we're going to need all of them.
Right,
we're not getting like lane advantages or anything like that. And that, I don't know, maybe earlier in season 10 that would be okay. But now, while the top lane is buffed up, you can play through there. The elemental dragons just like aren't as good anymore. I mean, like we see teams losing games after like getting Ocean Soul and stuff like that. It's kind of like it's still strong, but it's not the end all be all of actually winning a game. So yeah, I don't know, I don't think it's a good way to play League. That said, having a great jungler is really nice. Right? I mean, if you ever played solo queue, and I think most people, JuiceBox and I included, if you have a good jungler, it feels pretty good. So that in and of itself is giving you a lot of advantages in lane. Is that bridging the gap for IU's lanes? I don't think so, but maybe it could in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, and when it does bridge the gap, Amended is the guy who steps up, right? The AD carry. But like I said, you're going against Manitoba Bisons in world-class esports. You're going against other really, really talented AD carries. So yeah, I think Indiana University really has their work cut out for them in this group. I don't think that they're by any means doomed or anything like that. Like, I think they have a pretty decent shot here, but I still, depending on what I get from Gothboy Click, and speaking of being a hopeless, like last podcast, hopeless romantic about a team, I have faith in Gothboy Click. I don't know why. I got a good feeling. Even though they went 0-2 to Indiana University, the squad I'm talking about right now, I just feel like Gothboy Click is a better matchup at the Manitoba Bisons of world class. So I think that they can get some wins that Indiana University is going to be unable to get. But so just to round off on Indiana University, 1-2 game record, 4-4 total record, and the 4 wins, the Terrians did great. The 4 losses, the Terrians did not have a big impact. So yeah, so that I think that is the main source of power for Indiana University. But let's go ahead and let's talk about Gothboy Click. Now, Gothboy Click, they're 1-2, but their first series that they lost was because they replaced a team called Dark Pulse back in week 1. So they inherited those 2 losses from them. So they have a 2-5 game record officially, but it should be a 2-3 game record. And yeah, they collapsed against Indiana University, or not. I'm sorry, not Indiana. I think it was World Class this week. They collapsed. I mean, it looked really scary. Like I said, I mean, I think it might just have been a really bad off week for them. But and to talk about key players and the weaknesses, I don't know. I don't know enough about the squad yet. I haven't had enough VODs to really get a good idea, and I don't. It's not week 1, so I don't feel confident just thrusting out blind predictions anymore. I mean, week 1, whatever. I'll say whatever, whatever the hot thing is, but I have no idea with Gothboy Click. I think from what little I have seen is they have a very well-rounded roster. But there's pros and cons to having a well-rounded roster, right? As of now, I don't know if they have any star players that can carry a game, but I don't think they have any big weaknesses either. So as a team, if when you're going up against world class esports and you have Where is Osama to deal with, or you're going up against the Bisons with Kept 1, if they can keep those star players from getting off the ground, Gothboy Click tends to win their games. And if those star players pop off, which is what star players do, then that's why you have 3 losses.
Definitely, and I think Ebrom and I are the only ones who've actually seen Gothboy Click before, and it was like
I'll
very.
I'll let you take over here.
Yeah, it was very briefly for me anyway, and I don't really remember. To be honest, I think they've probably gone through a couple iterations since then. The only one I actually remember on this team are Night of the Zed, and then one of the subs, J Radius. So I think might have been a starter when I was watching them anyway. But yeah, I don't really remember any of these other players, so I guess they're kind of a different team now. But yeah, from what I remember, this was a pretty good team. I don't remember this being like a Masters level team though, so that might be why they're having some issues. We can go down the list of solo queue, like I don't know, ranks, but the bottom line is they're not as high as some of the other teams here, at least in some areas anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I think we had high hopes for them coming into it because we maybe had some rose tinted glasses. Looking back on what we had casted them before, but yeah, they're just not really cutting the mustard, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, and getting thrown into a season is always tough, which is something we're gonna dive a little bit deeper on in Division 2. But yeah, the last thing I'm gonna say about Gothboy Click, unless you have any final thoughts, is just I am excited to see these guys. I don't see how they get top 2 in this group though, against some of these really really solid players from world class in Manitoba Bisons. I think that, and even IU, like I do think Gothboy Click being kind of a more consistent team is nice in Indiana University, but I don't necessarily think that is always going to be enough.
For sure, yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I would echo that exactly. I don't think it's going to be enough. That really seems to be the whole story of Gothboy Click so far this season, and I guess mathematically they could come back, but
yeah, I mean they're not done by any.
Yeah, they're not out yet, but they are. The probability is certainly not in their favor at this point. So they got some real work to do, some hours to put in to be able to come back in this group. But yeah, one of the more volatile groups, I guess we'll say. I don't know if this is necessarily one of the better groups, but it is definitely a hotly contested one for sure.
Yeah, we are going to do a quick division power ranking at the end. Just to give like a fun little like who we think the strongest to weakest division is. But
sounds good.
Slight spoiler, it's not looking great for Div 1.
It isn't. It really is not.
That's all I'm going to say so far, but they do look like they are one of the messier groups. But let's move on to one of the more exciting and interesting groups. The group of death, so to speak. That poor Northwood University found themselves thrust into in week 3, and welcome to the league, boys.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think that let's go ahead. Let's do the same formula. So start at the top. Aquatics Esports, my boys, the ones that I kind of fanboy over. Give me an autograph. All of the whole 9 with these guys. They're 3-0. They have lost one single game across all 3 series to Glaive Amethyst, and that it looked like a fluke when it was happening, and it was kind of like, okay, you know how like TSM used to, even when they got put behind like in season 6, you were like, it doesn't matter, they're gonna come back and win, and then if they didn't win, you were like, it doesn't matter because next week they're just gonna win. That's exactly what it felt like. Like they lost game 2, and you were just like, I think Glaive is screwed. but let's talk about these guys. So they've won all their series. The key players on this team. Now, the problem when you talk about a team like Aquatics is it feels like everybody except for their top laner is insane. And like they have 4-star players and then a very sufficient top laner.
For sure.
They have Pyrian in the jungle. All right, this guy is already a beast. Or Pyroan, I'm not sure exactly, but no egos the mid laner. Awesome. This dude will absolutely thrash you if you give him an opportunity. Oshawott is the 80 carry. Good 80 carry. I actually do think that some of the 80 carries from Division 1 might be above this guy, but it's not a significant difference. Where Division 1 really does get in trouble, if you were to talk about comparing them, is that support Monster Mash. My favorite support in the league. This dude is a beast.
For sure, yeah, he's nuts, and it's hard to tell really who's doing more for this bot lane, Oshawott or Monster Ash, because they work so well in tandem, right? I mean, it never seems like one is without the other, really, in terms of like positioning, or even just like power level. You know, sometimes in season 10 we'll see something like a support roaming a lot to either you know, a good effect or maybe not so much, and maybe the support and ADC starts to get a little bit more separated in levels, a little bit more separated with the KDA and stuff like that. Now these two are like bound by the foot, right? They're running the three-legged race. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, they make it happen. Aqualix is probably one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's it's not like you can look at any other teams and say, oh, these guys have a good matchup into Aqualix.
Yeah.
You look at the other teams, some of the best ones, you're like, maybe they could win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it might
Maybe
be an
they
off
could
day.
take on Aqualix.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, so if I was gonna give any weakness to Aqualix, it would have to be the top laner. And when I say a weakness, I just mean he's weaker than the rest of the players. Not that he's actually a weakness, because he's good. He's a fine top laner. Probably like a number 7 in the league in terms of top laners. Maybe 8th. And when that's your worst player is a middle tier top laner, you're fine. This isn't even a top lane meta, right? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. So I think Aqualix is the team to beat, maybe in the league, but especially in Division 2. But let's go ahead and let's talk about where it is interesting, which is for that second seed. Now, right now, Aqualix is 3-0. Basically, hell would have to freeze over at this point if they don't make it out. But where it's a little bit more dicey is Glaive Amethyst. Now, Glaive, they're 2-1 in game record. Look pretty good, I would say. 5-4 overall, right? That's their total record, is 5-4. And that is because they probably have the best bot lane in the league in Vark and Trivia Boy. Individually, I don't think they're the best players, but I think as a dynamic, they are the best bot lane. Their mid laner, Yule, talented. He's a very good mid laner. I don't think he matches up to No Ego, but that, he's still he's a very dominant player. I have 2 problems with this team, and unfortunately, these 2 are fan favorites, so this isn't necessarily going to bode well. Doopy, I think he's a iffy jungler. I think he has a lot of off performances. Maybe he's a really good jungler, and has been for a long time, but so far in the first 3 weeks, he's been one of the primary liabilities of Glaive Amethyst. And the second player that I'm honestly kind of scared to say, Clonk Gronk Zonk, has to be the most coin flip player in the league. Like, he'll either go 8-1 or he'll run it down for 20 minutes. Like, it's really tough to tell with this guy what you're going to get.
To be honest, that's one of the more dangerous things that a top laner can be, right? Because when you're trying to draft, how do you draft against that? Right? So many drafts rely on playing like weak side top or something like that, or throwing Shen up in the top side and being like, yeah, we'll just go hyper carry with a Shen. And it's like, well, what if Clonk Gronk Zonk just like dumpsters us on Camille and hard carries his game? Well, I don't know. He went like 0-11 on Camille last week. How is he going to do that? No, you don't understand. He will. Like, he will do that. Like, it'll happen.
This isn't a joke.
Yeah, no, like, this isn't something we could just ignore.
And that's how they beat Aqualix, was Clonk heads up. He flipped heads up that game and just went crazy, and it was ridiculous. But then look at the other 2 games. Clonk did not do very well in either of those other 2 games. I think one of them he kind of went even, but the other one he got dumpstered. If memory serves. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. And so with your top and your jungle being a little bit hit or miss is the way I'll describe it. I think Glaive can beat Aqualix if they're both hitting. But at the end of the day, I think these guys miss as often as they hit, right? And against, Aquatics and even striking Viper High Table, which is also in this division, that is a risky proposition.
For sure, yeah. You're like you mentioned, hitting or miss. If you're missing against striking Vipers, hey man, that you can't take losses like that. There aren't enough games in the season for you to lose games like that to striking Vipers and still look at playoffs and look to get at the top of this group, especially like against Aquatics, right? Like you were mentioning, you need to win all of these games, and then if you want a coin flip against Aquatics, okay, fine, do that. Okay, sure, but you can't like lose to anybody else. You have to keep up the wins. In fairness to like Glaive and a Clown, a lot of like the coin flippiness is a little more due to the meta than anything else. Like you mentioned, it's not a top lane meta like at all, right? It hasn't been all season. Top lane has been basically useless. Like your Ornn or Maokai, and that's it. It's only recently that things like Camille have kind of come back in. The Fiora, even like mainstay top laners are coming back in a little bit more and having more success, like Mordekaiser, your Juggernaut, stuff like that. So it's almost like all the teams, if you're trying to play through top, which is something you can do now, are very new to it, right? They haven't done it probably since Season 9, if they've even been together as a team that long. So if all of a sudden we've been playing together as a team since like December 2019, let's say, we have never played through Clark Song. Like never until like maybe a month ago, and then we started playing through him. It's new to them, and he's a fantastic player, and he's probably the reason why they can play around a lot of the comps they're playing. But the reality is that you don't have enough hours in the day to put the time into playing a comp that revolves around top lane when everybody else has been playing bot lane focused comps all season long, like literally all season long in solo queue, in like flex queue, in Clash. If they play Clash, like they're doing norms with their friends, you play around bot lane like every single time. And these guys are coming and say, hey, let's play around the top laner, and it's fine because sometimes he pops off because he's really a top laner. Other times the execution breaks down for one reason or another.
Yeah. So overall, I do think Glaive is a good team. I definitely have them in the top half of the entire league. As to where they exactly land really just depends on how, what clunk we get and what doopy we get in these games, right? Like when they're on point, top 4 easy. When they're playing a little iffy, then they kind of are middle of the table. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how if Glaive can get a little bit more consistency as the season moves along. We're halfway through, so now's the time to do it. If you're gonna do it, you don't have that much time left. So but let's go ahead. Let's talk about striking Vipers. This is the 3rd place team in the group, 1-2 game record, 3-5 overall. And at the moment, their only win is against a team who's no longer in this division, in Mad City Outlaws. But they still have that win counting over Northwood University. And I have a lot of stress for this team. Just to be completely honest, I think they have probably the best, well, maybe outside of Aquatics, the best mid in this league, or not in this division, I mean. And their jungler is really solid too, right? And that is something that is going to help them a lot when it comes to playing against Glaive. Is, when you have a jungler that doesn't always click for your team, having a jungler I'm sorry, not a jungler, sorry, a top laner, and I meant with Clonk. So having a top laner that doesn't always click for your team, you put Easy Life against that guy, and Easy Life could run away with the series if you get the wrong Clonk. So striking Viper High Table, their mid laner and the top laner, very good. The issue is I think they have a fairly weak jungle ADC and support. I don't think any of those guys are, I don't think they're the worst by any means. I don't even know if I'd necessarily say they're in the bottom 25%. But you're in a group with Aquatics and Glaive, right? Like, you need your players to be at least in the top 30% or 40% of the league. Like, And I think that's what Striking Vipers are really struggling with.
For sure, and we're talking about like shot calling and what a role is supposed to do, is supposed to mean, and stuff like that. And if you're playing comp and the weakest players on your team are your jungler and support, you will win games because your laners will carry you occasionally through individual success, but you're probably not going to have a winning record. And the reason is because so many times games are decided in like a single play, a single call, or maybe just like 2 or 3 in a row, or even just like on a macro level, like are we playing through top or bottom? And if you make the wrong decision, if your shot caller calls the wrong shot, then you're just gonna lose the game. Now, it kind of plays off each other a little bit, right? Because the better or more ahead your laners are, the less bad calls you can physically make, right? So say you're like, okay, cool, let's go for this dragon. If you're like mid lane Caston, this is 20 minutes and he's like 8-0, like you can't make a bad call. Like you're gonna win no matter what, right? So it doesn't necessarily matter as much then if your support doesn't have like tons of vision, if your jungler doesn't really understand pathing or anything like that, it just won't matter. You're just gonna win. But like way more times, like 7 more times out of 10, it's gonna come down to do we have the power to make this play? Do we have the power spikes and stuff like that? And support and jungle are 2 of the positions where your job is basically gathering information, making calls, and like that. And the mid laner, the AD carry, you could shot call for sure. I'm not saying like those roles can't, but you have a lot of things to worry about in those roles. And if you're shot calling too, you're just not gonna be able to maintain everything at the same level, right? You're gonna start dropping things. So I would definitely want Easy Life to be like if I'm their coach, I'm like, yo, you get perfect CS and like you take the best trades you can take, right? Somebody else to do shot calling, and yeah, I mean if your shot callers, if your support staff aren't coming through with the information or coming through with the calls, then you're not gonna have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Striking Viper high table right now, 3rd place in this group. Obviously, they're only a game back from Glaive, but they're gonna have to play Aquatics again. So that's probably gonna be another loss right there. They haven't actually played Northwood University yet. So we'll see how that one goes, although I'm not very confident on Northwood. And then they have to play Glaive again. And that's the matchup that matters, right? And
yeah,
they already lost to Glaive. I forget exactly how it went. It was in 2-1 fashion. So if they can 2-0 Glaive, they have the head-to-head matchup. But they need to do that. Like, that is not an option. Like, that is basically what they need. If they do 2-1 against them, you go to a tiebreaker, and Glaive looks like a really good team. Probably someone you want to put in early and you don't want to have to deal with later on. So, but let's go ahead. Let's shift our focus over to NU. And so here's the thing. They're 0-3.
Yep.
They have a 2-6 record overall.
Yep.
But they inherited Mad's record. And the problem is Mad gave them their 2 wins. They didn't even get those by themselves. So they're technically 0-2 in game score, 2-6 overall because of Mad, and they're even worse than Gothboy Click in my opinion in terms of knowing what to think about them. Because I just haven't seen them yet, and I'll need to look into them. I was unable to get their VODs in time for the videos to review them for this, but welcome to the hardest group that you could have asked for. I mean, that's bad luck.
Yeah, this is the group of death. They inherited a lot of losses. They've inherited wins too. They just played the one series, so it's not a ton of information we have on them. But yeah, they have inherited quite the terrible position in this group. But yeah, heard of Kellex before. Got some pretty good teams. That would be basically all I know about Northwood University.
Right.
So I like, Oh man, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not gonna like look up their solo queue numbers or whatever. I don't think that's worth doing. But yeah, no, they definitely got their work cut out for them. If they make any kind of headway in this group, I think it would probably be the biggest story of the league. I think it'd probably be one of the bigger upsets. I don't say that to like flame them or anything. It's just kind of
Sure.
like you're coming late into the league into one of the best groups that we have. Like, I'd probably put this group on top just because it has Glaive Amethyst and Aquatics in it. And that sucks, but you know what? I think you take it as a learning experience. Try to roll with the punches and see what success you can get, what you can learn from this.
Like, to put it in perspective for Northwood, they have to win 2 of their next 3 series to even have a chance of getting into the postseason. And that chance relies on Glaive losing every game or every series from here on out, and that relies on Striking Viper high table to beat Glaive. And so there's a lot of things that are going to have to come together for Northwood University. And even if they do 3-0, they're still not guaranteed to get into the playoffs. So yeah, these guys, I mean, it was just a hard situation to get put into, and best of luck to them, but there's just not a lot to say about it. It's gloomy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm pulling for Northwood. Hey, I think if they win,
awesome.
I think it'd be cool. And I'm excited to see them. But yeah, they got unlucky on this one, and maybe next season we can see them rise to some pretty big heights. But
have you ever seen Firefly, the TV show?
I have not. I've heard of it.
Okay, well, here's a little quote that maybe some people can appreciate. They got dealt the smallest stick in the existence of the universe, and well, they took it. So, yeah, that might tickle some people's fancies. But let's move on to Division 3, and I hate this division.
I love it. I think it's great.
I hate this division. I think that it's got 3 squads that should look good. It has 1 squad that does look good, and it has 1 squad that shouldn't look good, but it's looking pretty good. So it's frustrating to me. I like things to go by the numbers.
Definitely, yeah. So just to kick it off, Soulbound Mirage has been pretty dominant from the get-go. Just kind of dumpstering everybody. They're 3-0 on the top of their record. I think the second best team, and like the numbers, I guess technically agree with me in this group, is the Claymores. Now they're 1-2, which isn't as good like an actual record as Glacial Esports, but I think the way the games panned out, they end up like having like technically a better game score or something like that. I think the Claymores are really good. Then Glacial Esports and Lost Collective.
And we're not going to talk about them.
No, we're not going to talk about them.
All right, yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's take it from the top here. So Soulbound 3-0, 6-1 in total game score. The only defeat they've suffered so far this season is to 0-3 Lost Collective. Do with that what you will. I think that Soulbound is. I don't think they're the second best team. I think they're maybe top 4, maybe top 5. And here's my issue with them. Best Turtle VN, fantastic jungler. Maybe the best jungler in the league. Definitely top 3 for me. But I mean, he might have that number 1. I haven't done like a deep analysis yet, but just from what I've seen so far, he looks good. Steel City Warrior up in the top lane.
Fantastic.
He's good. I mean, like,
fantastic.
I think he has off games.
He does.
My issue with him. So, but yeah, like, I don't think he's as coin flippy as aforementioned top laners are. I think he's usually a little bit more consistent, and I don't think he has as high of a ceiling as Clonk. But I think his floor is significantly better. Where Soulbound really does have me worried is they kind of have the same issue that where is it? My God, I'm blanking. I think if I can find them. Well, anyway, so basically they really rely on Best Turtle. So they're kind of like Indiana University on hard mode. Like if you cranked it up to 10. Um, but granted, like their players aren't gonna fall apart without him. They just don't necessarily have as good of a time if he's not getting forward. And I think that there are teams that are going to be able to shut Best Turtle down. I mean, maybe not across a series, but it definitely from game to game. And if you're just losing those games outright and you're not guaranteed to win the games when Best Turtle VN is on, then that results in a lost series every single time. But yeah, I think that I think they have all good players, but they are a bit jungle reliant to be on that or I guess on that S tier level.
For sure, yeah, and I'm of the opinion that if the goal, and this is almost never the goal, but if the goal of a League of Legends game is to shut down the enemy jungler, then you've already won. Like, that's so easy. Like, God, you shove out the wave in mid lane and run in and take raptors, you've shut down the enemy jungle. Like, it could not be easier to do something like that. And it kind of goes back, once again, to, like, the start of Season 10, and we're still kind of, like, in an evolution of that original meta from the start of the season, even after the general changes and everything. People would just shut down the enemy jungler because they could, like, just because it was so easy. Like a Cinder would shove out the lane, just like over one shot raptors, like on cooldown, like every single raptors camp. Just walk in the enemy jungle, drop a control ward, wait for them to walk over the controller, then walk over and kill them. It happened all the time at the start of the season. And to be honest, it doesn't happen now, but the biggest reason for that is because it's not, like, as impactful. Like, it's good to get a kill on the enemy jungler for sure, but once again, top lane is more important. So if you're going to be doing the top side of the map, you might have a Camille coming to help them. That's not great, right? Before it was just Maokai. Now it's like Camille or Fiora or something that's a lot more dangerous to do. But it is still something that is like, if this is the Wink edition, we have to go kill this Olaf in the early game or something, you could totally do it. Like, so that's why I think it's so dangerous for them to be playing that way. That said, we watched this team on stream just destroy a team with Steel City Warriors Gnar. It was,
oh my God, that
wild.
Was so brutal.
Like,
that was disgusting.
It really was a situation where, like, Best Turtle I was having a bad one. It wasn't, like, a fantastic game, you know? Nutty Bars and Press E-Boy were kind of getting shut down, and to be honest, I was like, okay, maybe Claymore's got this. Maybe they can pull out the win here. No, Steel City Warrior just dropped in with this massive Gnar, just the craziest Gnar. Even after we talked about the pick not being great and everything like that, and I think there's a clip actually they posted on Twitter of him just getting a triple kill under outer mid turret, just kind of casually. It was just nuts. But yeah, no, this is a really, really good team.
No, they're definitely.
Oh man, yeah,
They
no,
are
but they do have those weaknesses. It's a good point.
Yeah, and that is something I do want to clarify, because I guess I maybe undersold them a little bit. They don't need Best Turtle, right? They don't need him, but he really does help them a lot, and they look fine without him, but they don't look great without him.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Kind of going back to, like, once again, just like, that's not really what a jungler does for a team, is like hard carry them, I guess, the way we traditionally understand carries. But yeah, he's a fantastic jungler, and I'm sure that Soulbound would not be the team they are without him. But there are some very good players on Soulbound. I wouldn't say like Steel City Warrior can't win lane, or like stuff like that. You know, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, man. He seems to be doing his thing, but yeah. And Naivars and Impressive E-Boy are also like a fantastic bowling. Havoc, Havoc had some issues with Havoc, but he wasn't like inting, right? So it was kind of like, okay, this is fine.
I like Oppressed E-Boy a lot. I think he's a great support. I don't think he's a top 4 support. You know, I think there are plenty of supports that are better, and the same kind of goes to Nutty Bars. And it's funny because they kind of, who's the LCS team that had that going on? Like, they're like the classic Apollo Hakuho lane. You know, like, they're good. They're not the best. They're not like, they will carry the occasional game. They're never gonna straight up lose you the game, but you know, the highs just aren't consistently high enough for me to rate them super high. The lows, and that's like the story of the whole team, right? Except for Best Turtle. The highs are awesome. The lows really aren't that low, right? Like they're still like a 7 out of 10, but they usually spend more time around that 7 out of 10 range than they do at that 10 out of 10 range. Yeah. So just to wrap it up on Soulbound, definitely top 4, top 5 in the league. You plug these guys into any division, and I think they're getting out.
Yep. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You plug them into any division, I think that there are 2 other divisions where they might get second in the division. Yeah. But yeah, I think that they're very I think they're talented for sure. But let's go ahead, let's move to the rest of the division. So we'll start with Glacial. Glacial's 2-1, 4-4 game record. And God, what to say about these guys? So they've beaten the Claymores in a series they probably shouldn't have won. Yeah. They beat Lost Collective in a series they probably shouldn't have won. Granted, Lost Collective, I'm sorry, the Claymores kind of fell apart against Glacial, but I think the Claymores are a better team than Glacial is. I just think that they have a very exploitable issue over on the Claymores. But before we get into that, let's talk about Glacial. So Kai Azure is a great mid laner. And that's why I think Glacial actually matches into Soulbound fairly well, because I think that Kai Azure does beat out the Havoc. The other thing is Fighting Spirit, the jungler. He is the Clonk Gronk Zonk of the jungle, right? He is, I mean, he will play at a 10 out of 10 level, carry the game, stomp everybody, leave you no chance, and then he'll do the exact opposite the next game, where he's 0-7, and you're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going in. You're like, we're 10,000 gold behind. He's like, no, trust me.
You don't understand.
And
the conditions are perfect.
This is what I'll say about Glacial. They are jungle reliant. They have the most unreliable jungle.
Yep. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not trying to like flame teams on a podcast, but Glacial. Oh no. I don't even know. Cause I would never like flame a team for just like not performing well, but oh man, winning series I don't think you should have won. That hits me like some type of way, man. I'm just like, oh god, you
you sneaky snails.
Yeah, you sneaky snails. But yeah, I mean, hey, I don't think they're I don't think they're a bad team. It's like you said, they're like unreliable, right? And seeing an unreliable team just kind of like coin flip their way past a couple other teams, kind of like whatever. But I don't not to skip ahead to Claymores or anything. I don't think like Claymores are necessarily like the mainstay super reliable team either. So I don't know if it's kind of like.
Oh, believe me, I got something to say about the Claymores.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well.
Before we get to them, what I'll say about Glacial, if I had to give them a tagline, they are the sorority girl of the league, right? Super flaky. Odds are she won't show up.
Lol.
But when she does, she's really fun to have around, so you keep inviting her.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm down with this. I'll go ahead and admit to everybody watching at home, I don't spend a lot of time around sorority girls. That's just not something I do.
And you won't.
I'll take your word for it.
Flaky.
They're super. That's why. See that? That's why.
But
no other reason.
Let's talk about the Claymores. Okay. They've beaten Lost Collective. They're 1-2 overall. They're 3-5 in total record. And I think the only series that they got 0-2 swept by, let me look really quick, is, that's the wrong division. They got swept by no one. Actually, no, yeah, I'm sorry. So they're 3-5. Yeah, so they've literally taken a game in every single one of their divisions. Or in every single one of their games. What? So I think that Akuma Claymores. Sorry, my friend is in the room, and he was whispering something to me, and I could barely hear him with my headphones. I was like, "What?" But he was correcting me on something. So yeah, so they've won a game in every single one of their series, but they're 1-2 in total series score, and that is because they have, in my opinion, the best top laner in the league in Revnon. I think this guy is fantastic. I think he's really a standout player. The issue, they live by the Revnon and they die by the Revnon. And that does not mean he's unreliable. I think he's reliably really good. I think he's the only part that's reliably really good. I think everybody else is like a, middle to bottom half player.
For sure, yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I think Glaive Amethyst and Akuma Claymores are my two favorite teams in this league, is because it's just kind of like, it's so weird to play through top lane, but they have just like these killer top laners, so they're like, let's just do it, and it leads to the most interesting results, man. Like, it's just like winning some kind of crazy lane on like Kled or something like that, or just hard stomping on like a Mordekaiser or something. It's like, oh god, this is so interesting, man. It's so different than what we normally been seeing, and what we see even at like other levels of play right now. It's kind of like people are still new to the whole top lane thing, so it's really fun to watch Revnon play. But yeah, I think once again, like, Bodas and Dark Lord Matthew bring a lot to this team. They have some pretty killer lanes. I'm pretty sure we've seen Bodas like on a Callista or some point this season, and I really like that pick. I really like that they're willing to like try things that maybe aren't super like meta, at least in the league anyway. So it was really cool to see them play that. But yeah, no, I really like this team. I think they're capable of a lot of things. But yeah, what I was talking about earlier about with Glacial and everything is that how both these teams are kind of coin flip a little bit. Claymores will just like lose games and you're not really sure why. They'll be like, I think one game last week or a couple weeks ago, they had like a Misfortune Lucian type comp with like a Rek'Sai in the jungle, and it was like, this sounds insane. Yeah, let's do this. And they just like totally lost that series. It went to 3 games, but like it was that first game, totally lost that first game, and it was just a tank of a series after that. But yeah, no, every time we've seen this team on stream, they've been nuts. I know when I watch the VODs, I think they're really fun to watch too. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like this team's going places, but they gotta get over the Glacial thing somehow, because they gotta start being the team.
Yeah, and they're such an oddball in the league. Like you said, I mean, they are fun to watch, and I do root for them. But yeah, I really think Glacial's probably gonna get out of this division, and it's just because the Akuma Claymores have the most obvious counter card, which is go shut down Revnon. Right? All the games they throw is usually where Revnon doesn't get off, and then it's up to the other players to carry the game, and then they can't follow through. That's usually the way that they lose their games, that they should win. So they are, like I said, live by the Revnon, die by the Revnon, and I think he's the best top laner. But yeah, it's just you need somebody else. But all right, let's move on to what I consider to be the best bad team in the league. Lost Collective. Let's talk about them. Every bit of logical sense says these guys should be at least 2-1 in this league. Yep. But they are 0-3, 2-6 game record, and I mean, it really feels like a game of Yahtzee, right? You throw like all the dice in the bag, you roll them all out, and that's how each individual player is going to perform in that series. You Definitely. Don't know what you're going to get. The ceilings are so high and the floors are in the basement. It's just...
For sure. Yeah, like, if somebody, like a future version of me, came back and they there's this huge like time travel explosion or something behind me, and they were like, Axeman, a bottom tier team just won the Risen Divine League. I'd be like, yeah, Lost Collective, right? Of course,
Right.
like it had to have been Lost Collective, right? They had to like turned it up all of a sudden in week 3 and just won every game out of there because they could. I feel like they could. I wouldn't be like surprised, you know. I don't know. This team takes games off of literally anybody. Once again, almost for no reason, but it definitely defies analysis. But yeah, 2-6 is hard to ignore from like a statistical standpoint. But yeah, taking one game at least in every series, that says something to me, right? It's those are important factors, and I genuinely think that every other team, especially like Claymores and Glacial, who are kind of going back and forth and like are so close, like if you drop a game to Lost Collective, that is the end of the season for you. Like you're not going to the postseason, right? And that's like really rough. You have to be careful about that.
Yeah, and I actually said they were 2-6. Yeah, you're right. They are 3-6. Yeah, so they have taken a game in every series, but they're so close to being the top team here. They are really, but and they're the only team Soulbound has lost to, right? It's the Aquatics over here. Is the only team Soulbound has dropped a game to is the bottom team. So that's fun. But yeah, so speaking of Division 3 as a whole, they should be a lot better than they are. I think that this is the dartboard division, right? Where just throw it at the board. You might get a bullseye. You might get, I don't know, the wall 3 feet away from the board. So you just don't know what you're gonna get with this division. But let's move on to the Division 4. And the thing with Division 4 is their week 3 games were both moved to tonight. So we should have the result. Oh, actually, as I said that, one of the results for the games just came through. But
what do we get?
Omega Gaming Silence are now 6-0 in this group. So 3-0 game score, 6-0 overall record, and they beat Aquatics Esports, the team I love to hate.
Oh no. Oh man. So I like yeah, I thought Aquatics was gonna do better in the group. I think that bumps them down to last, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Akuma Halberds are last at 0-2.
Still last? Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
so
they're playing tonight, right?
Yeah, they're playing against Conviction. So Conviction is one of the teams I have more faith in this division to get out. But so it's Aquatics or Quintus or?
It doesn't have a T in it, so I've been saying Aquatics.
Oh, Aquatics. Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, that's my bad.
I have to ask them. I haven't heard them say it, so.
So Aquatics. We'll go with Aquatics, but let's start off with Omega Gaming Silence. I don't know a ton about these guys because they're relatively new. They've only been in the league for about a week and a half now. They did get to go back and play their week 1 game because it got delayed, so they just let them play it out. Where they beat, I think it was the Halberds. Yeah, they beat Akuma Halberds 2-0. They beat Conviction 2-0. So and that was in the span of 2 days. So they played the series back to back. So went 4-0, and then they just beat Aquatics literally right now in 2-0 fashion as well. And they have
not a lot of games.
Not a lot of games. They have 6 games to dive into. In all 6, they looked good in 4 of them. Actually, the series they had against Conviction was the most bizarre 2-0 I've ever seen. Where I was like, the team that got 0-2 looked better for 90% of that series, and then for 10% of it, they looked worse. They just fell apart. So I don't know what happened there, but Matt Show Gap is really, really good. That's their mid laner, and he is an awesome mid laner. Azuto, a great AD carry. As for the weaknesses, I don't know. They seem to struggle with some macro stuff in general, especially in the early mid game, but just player strength, they're very talented. So I think they're 100% getting out of this group. I don't know if it's going to be first or second. But yeah, I think that they're a very talented squad, and I think that they might be competitive for the championship if they can clean up their early mid game just a little bit.
And to be honest, I mean, one of the things that really defines a lot of the other groups is that they have, and this group as well, is that they have big organizations behind them. And I think something that stands out with Silence here is that Omega Gaming has a very analytical background, I guess, with Ivar and with Omega. They have support staff behind them, and they're talking them through like drafts and talking them through strategies and stuff like that. And a lot of the things you're talking about with the macro, yeah, they have issues with macro like in game, but when it comes to out of game, when it comes to like draft stuff or what we're talking about, like strategy going into a game or something like that, this team is nuts. Like this team has absolutely read everything there is to read about you, and that is so dangerous in a league like this where you're showing up playing like, you know, for 6 weeks against each other, and then whoever wins because there's not a ton of time. There's not enough time to grow, not enough time to adapt to a lot of stuff. So if you're coming into every single series and you have all the knowledge, you have all the information behind you, yeah, you're gonna kill it. Akuma, Aquatics really recently formed. I don't know too much about Conviction, but these are all more like loosely organized organizations. That's not like Flame or anything. Like, I'm not saying they're bad for that or anything.
Right. They just
because
don't have the history.
yeah, Akuma produces some of the best teams at this level. But it's just a little bit more disconnected, right? I mean, I don't know how much like they really like share as far as support staff or anything like that. They just kind of all carry the same banner, especially with Aquatics too. I know all the Stormwolves teams have like different coaching staff, have different managers and all that. So how much overlap there is between them, I'm not really sure. But I know with Omega, man, everybody is behind you all the time, and they got some really good staff supporting them. So it definitely gives them an edge.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Omega Gaming Silence is going to be one of the dominant teams here, as they've already shown, right? I mean, they're the only team so far that hasn't dropped a single game, and they absolutely should have dropped 2 games. I'm just going to say that right now. They should be 4-2 overall, but they are 6-0 for a reason.
Yep.
And yeah, like so that means they might be the only freaking team in the entire league that's good from playing at a deficit. You know, that isn't gonna just drop off the second they fall behind, and that is a highly underrated skill.
For sure.
So,
it's a silver bullet. I really feel like so Mega Gaming are like my number 2 team. I feel like most people who are either analyzing or like on the broadcasting or whatever are like Aquatics is number 1 right now. Omega Gaming for me is number 2, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of like how C9 and I guess G2 were this season. I hope it doesn't end the same way as that matchup.
But we don't talk about Cloud9.
But it's kind of like I'll never get over that we didn't get to see C9 versus G2 this season. But I'll never get over that. I will leave out the rest of my life being like, I wish they had met and fought when they were both at the height, like right around whenever you think C9 was peaking and G2 were peaking this season. I wish those 2 teams had fought against each other. The best part is I think Omega Gaming and Aquatics will actually get to meet in this league, absolutely. And I think it's going to be really cool. And I 100% am going to do everything in my power to make sure that series gets streamed, because that is going to be a shootout.
I mean, look, let me put it this way: Omega Gaming Silence has joined Aquatics on the S tier, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like, because there's no way to say they're not. Like, even in the games they look bad, they win. Not many teams do that, so that is awesome for them. But let's not spend the entire time on Division 4. You know, just throwing out hearts and kisses over to Omega Gaming. So let's talk about Conviction. And they right now, so they're 2-2 overall. They went 0-2 against Omega Gaming, and they went 2-0 against, I think it was the Halberds. Against Aquatics. And
Yeah.
they are the single reason why I don't like the Aquinas squad. Like, because the beat down that these guys put on Aquinas or Aquinas, whatever, it was hideous to watch. It looked like they threw a middle school football player on running back against an NFL team, and they were like, "All right, good luck, get in there."
Get in there, champ.
It literally it looked that bad. I mean, Aquinas fell apart on every dynamic against them. I think that they're very well balanced as far as a team goes, but they're well balanced at like a 5 or a 6. You know, like they don't have any real star players on their squad. Mokian is the only player who I think has the potential, Mokian, something like that, to really pop off, and he's only done it like once. So I don't know. I think that as a squad, they're very susceptible to just getting outdone and outplayed from just a micro level.
It's definitely possible. I think this is actually one of the more competitive divisions, and it's a little interesting to say that because, you know, there's an undefeated team here. There's a team with no wins. It doesn't seem like overly competitive, but I generally think like all these teams are at a different level than the rest of the league is. Maybe not so much Division 2. It really is Division 2 and Division 4, I think, that are like a step above the other divisions. But the reason why is that, like, I see fantastic things from Aquinas. I see fantastic things from Conviction, even from Akuba Halberds, who haven't like won a series yet. I just see great plays. Yeah, or a single game. JuiceBox. I still see great things from him. I think Halberds are really a victim of their division here. I think they're probably. I think they're probably like upper middle of the pack. I think they're probably pretty good, but yeah, I don't know. I think Aquinas is like way better than the results are actually showing them to be. I think a lot of that just comes down to, once again, the division they're in, that they have to play against Omega and Conviction over and over every series. I think like I'm gonna call him Motion. Does that make sense?
Motion? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like Ocean, but yeah. Okay. I think that makes sense, but. Yeah, so I think Motion's a fantastic player. I think Steven Ader's really good, too. Maybe that's because he's on Stormwolves Lightning, and I think that team's crazy, but I don't know. I think he just plays, like, way too much high, like, top-tier league to actually be a bad player. And the rest of their squad is, like, kind of what we've been saying this whole time, is just kind of like, they're not stars, but they're really good. So, I don't know. I feel like this team can make just a lot of really, really solid things happen, but the division's killing them, man. I mean, you look at the matchups they have for Omega. Top lane, Black Dog from Ocean, that's not great. Mad Show in the mid lane, not great. No, like these are not like winning matchups. So
hey, if you want to make it worse, now I know we said we were going to talk about it, Conviction, but we totally just flipped onto the.
Oh yeah, we definitely did.
But, dude, Odin for Conviction, the mid laner, is an outstanding player. Duncan Dumpling, the top laner for Conviction, outstanding player. I mean, poor Aquinas or whatever. I'm just gonna try to get as many variations as their names I can.
Say it differently every time.
Yeah. The Akuninus is
that's my favorite one yet.
They're just you know, I think they look worse than they are. I'm starting to kind of flip over to that, you know, to that script, just because maybe like the Howards, they're just a victim of finding themselves in a group against Omega Gaming and Conviction. Like unlucky, really. But yeah, so okay, so let's actually talk about Conviction this time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll slip over to the Howards this time around. I don't know, but let's see if we can make it happen. So, like I was saying, very, very, very solid squad made Aquinas look pretty shaky, and they have really solid players. I think they might have the best overall average as a team in terms of player strength. Except for Aquatics. I think Odin and Duncan are the top two players on that team, and both have very high carry potential. The one issue I really have for Conviction, they opt into the dumbest fights. Like, they'll just be like,
Yep.
we're 8,000 gold behind. Let's go for it. Or, oh, we haven't put a single ward in any bush nearby. There's no way they're there.
Yep.
Come on, what are the odds?
Man, it comes down to what I was talking about like support staff and about the jungle support type deal. Striker, man, the guy is just so aggressive. This is like a season 9, maybe like circa season 6 jungler. It's the kind of just like locks in Lee Sin is like shut the heck up. I'm gonna carry. Like like get out of here. The dude's got like, oh Jesus, I didn't even check this yet. He has 100 games this season on Evelyn. What?
Yeah.
He's in like all the time, always in. You would think that a player like that would have more of the vision, but like you said, yeah, no, they're just going in on every fight, and it's almost like they don't need the vision because it doesn't matter what's in the bush. Like they're the whole team could be in the bush. It doesn't matter because I'm striker. I'll kill all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this seems pretty crazy too. I didn't believe that at the start. I remember the first podcast, or maybe it was even like last week. When we did it, and you were like, yeah, you knew Nano, and he's a pretty smart guy, and he wouldn't make a bad team. And I was like, that doesn't seem like a good argument. No, you're right. Yeah, no, then this is a great team. This is a great team.
Watch the results get pended, and then they went 0-2 though against the Halberds, and I'll just be like, that figures.
Yeah, figures. Yeah, the Halberds. Oh man, that would be quite the Cinderella story for sure. But yeah, you already pointed out Odin and Duncan Dumpling, huge, just
Right.
huge. It's like we've been talking. I feel like this entire podcast about Clonk Gronk Zonk. It's if Clonk Gronk Zonk was reliable, and then there were 2 of them, and they were both in the solo lanes. That doesn't make any sense, but yeah, no, these solo laners are crazy. To be honest, like I don't even want to say this is just like a solo lane gap either. Official Nyx and Boss Giovanni are very good. Like they're very good players. So yeah, and I don't. We were ragging on Striker. I don't think Striker's a bad jungler. That's not what I was saying.
I wasn't ragging on him.
I was.
Yeah. See, there you go. Join into the hate.
Let the hate flow through you.
Welcome to my world. But all right. Well, speaking of a team that is you can be a little bit more acceptable to hate. Let's talk about the Akuma Halberds. They should be the better Akuma team. Right? Like
okay, so
really
that is a great point. I love that point, but yeah, no, my favorite I would say my favorite Akuma Halberd is probably Keyboarder.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude's kind of memes, to be honest, but yeah, we were talking about like that time traveler in Lost Collective. That time traveler came in and said, "Hey, a bottom tier team won the league," and then they were like, "It was the Halberds." I'd be like, "Get out, you!" Oh, come on!
Come on, shut up!
That didn't happen.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I just feel like, oh man, that's not a thing. But yeah, Keyboarder plays some crazy stuff. I like the LeBlanc. I'm not like super in love with some of the other assassin-y type picks, things like that, but he's definitely trying a lot of different things and willing to play interesting champions. I can't think exactly like what we've seen him play in the league so far, but they actually haven't played many physical games. I'm pretty sure that they've just lost all the games, right? They're like 0-6. So yeah, it's kind of hard to draw a beat on the team anyway when it's just always losses. Obviously I've never seen what they play like when they're ahead. Never seen what they play like with any kind of advantage or lead or anything like that. I guess a couple of times they were ahead against Omega, but it's almost kind of like it's like a hollow lead, I guess, because they didn't end up doing anything with it. But yeah, no, it's hard to analyze a team that has literally lost every single game, and it's easy enough, and that's why I like the point when you said this should be the better Akuma team, because it'd be really easy to say this is just the worst team in the league and there's no point analyzing them. But I think there is a lot of analysis available here, and I think the point about them they should be the better Akuma team is a really really good point, because this team, I mean, from top to bottom, should probably be the better team. I feel like even from the Akuma like organization standpoint, like I think Akuma probably thought this would be the better Akuma team. So it's not like we're coming out of left field with this or anything.
And I actually have a slight hypothetical for you. So you switch the Claymores and the Halberds in their divisions. I bet you the Halberds would be second place in Division 3. I don't know if they'd beat Soulbound. I bet you they'd beat Glacial and Lost Collective. I bet the only thing that would change, or the thing that wouldn't change, is that the Claymores would still be 0-6 in Division 4.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's hard to disagree with. I think. The Claymores in Division 4. I don't know. So I guess the question is, can they beat Aquinas? I think maybe.
So here's what I'll come with as my division, or as my analysis for the Halberds. Keyboarder and Stallion, the mid laner and the jungler, I think that they have a great synergy. I think they're a really solid duo, right? I think that as a team, that's what they rely on. But the issue is they haven't been good enough yet to beat out Omega Gaming Silence or Conviction. Oh, tough story. Yeah, not a lot of teams are going to beat these squads. And so, I think Akuma is going to look a lot. Halberds are going to look a lot better in these other divisions. I think the issue is that in this division, those players are not good enough to carry the game by themselves. They need help from the other guys, and the other three members, the top and the bottom duo, they're not stepping up. I don't know if they're not good enough. I'm sure any player in this entire league is good enough, right? Like, they're in this league for a reason, but so far we just haven't seen anything from these guys to say they have any sort of chance here outside of that mid and jungle. That's been the lone bright spot of the team, and you can't win a game with just that. Like, you need the other people to at least do their due diligence and go even, or go down 10 CS and stay there.
For sure. And I think something we can't not talk about when we're talking about the Halberds is mental game either. This team is lost every single series up to this point in week 3. We've had 2 teams drop out because they were winning, losing every series, and they were winning games. Mad City had won some games. I'm pretty sure Dusk had won a game. Halberds have not.
Pulse.
Yeah, Dark Pulse. Yeah. Akuma Halberds have not won anything. and they're still in it. They're still fighting. And I think that deserves I think that deserves at least an honorable mention. I think that's pretty cool that they've played it out and they're not dropping out or anything like that. Because to be honest, I think it's so lame dropping out of a league. It's a 6-week league. Just play it out, dude. Come on.
Right. You're going to be done pretty soon anyway. But...
Exactly. And that's the other thing. I mean, you're high diamond masters level play. These are some of the best league players in the world. Obviously not the top few, top 3 or anything, but top couple thousand best players in the world. You could learn something from playing against them, right? This is a perfect opportunity to learn something playing against other very, very good teams that are very well organized, that play for other really big organizations like Akuma is. Learn something from those teams and bring it back to the organization that you play for, and I think Halberds are doing that very well. And I think that after this league, even if they never win a single game, they'll be better for it.
I agree. And I think that this is a squad with a very high ceiling. If they don't need that many more things to start winning games. They just need a little bit more, and then they start winning. They haven't gotten stomped in every game. There's been a lot of close games for them that they just barely didn't manage to eke out the win on. So yeah, I think that this is one of those squads where it's just a real bummer to see them struggling as much as they are. But I don't know. We'll have to see if they're able to get it together, and if they can, awesome. If they can't, better luck next season. But I don't want to see them next season. So
Yep.
But all right, let's go ahead. Let's move it over to the final segment. So I'm gonna give. There's a tier list, right? There's always gonna be a tier list at the end of these. And I am gonna give that tier list out. But what I will say is, we're going to rank the divisions by hardest division to easiest division to get out of. And so that basically means you're a brand new team. You come in with a 0-3 record. Which division would you have the best chance of eking out of? All right. And then the other dynamic that I'm going to measure this by is based off the tiers. Where do these teams end up? Right. Like which one has the highest average tier? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So, in my very humble opinion, I think that the worst division in the entire league has got to be Division 3. I think that between the Akuma Claymores and Lost Collective, even if we expect Lost Collective to play a lot better than they are, I still think they're a C tier team. I think Akuma Claymores are a C tier team. I think Glacial should be a C tier team, but they're playing like a B tier team. And I think Soulbound is a high level A tier team.
So I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say Division 1 is the weakest, and here's why. If you just go straight across the line for each individual line, right? So straight across, all the top teams are Manitoba Bisons, Aquatics, Soulbound, and Omega Gaming. I think of those four, Bisons are the worst. Next line, all the way across. IU, Glaive Amethyst, Akuma Claymore's Conviction.
No, World Class was the second place.
Oh, World Class is the second? Even better. World Class is the worst of those in the second. All of a sudden, IU, I think in Striking Fighters, Glacial Esports, and Aquas, that gets like a little better. It's like maybe around the middle, and then Gothboy Click, like maybe around the middle too. But I don't know, man. This one, like, you can't have the worst top two teams of any of the other divisions and then not be the bottom. Like, it just seems like this whole division is on a whole nother level, and it's like a very low level.
I like what you're saying. You might sway me. I'm going to argue a little bit, but this is an argument where I'm not fully committed to my argument. I'm curious to see what your retort is for it. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Omega Gaming Silence and Aqualix. The best two, right? I mean, no one's going to argue. Those are the top two teams. I would say Manitoba Bisons falls below Aquanix, Glaive, Soulbound, Omega Gaming Silence, and Conviction. Right, so that means that there was 5 or 6 teams better than them
I think,
before you get to the best team in their division.
Yeah.
All right, here's what the issue is. I don't think the drop off from the first place team in Division 1 to the second place team in Division 1 is much of a drop off. I think it's pretty freaking close. I think Manitoba Bisons edge out the other 3 teams. I think those other 3 teams are better than the bottom 2 teams in most of the other divisions. So Northwood University, we don't know much about them in Division 2. I don't think they're very good, just from what information I have so far. The Claymores and Lost Collective. Of world-class Gothboy Click and Indiana University, which of those squads does the Claymores and Lost Collective beat at even like a consistent basis? More than 5 out of 10 times.
Halberds and Lost Collective do not beat anybody on a consistent basis.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So you have a better chance of beating those teams.
Yeah.
Than you do of
if you look at it from the bottom up, yeah, for sure. World Class Esports and Gothboy Click are at like the top of the bottom, definitely.
Right. Like I would like in Division 1, they don't have an S tier team, but I think that they have 3 low B tier teams. Maybe even the 3 lowest B tier teams, but they also don't have any C tiers. And I think Division 4, Division 3 both have C tier teams. I think, or 2 C tier teams rather, and I think that Division 2 has 1 C tier team. Right, so instantly, if you just slot into any of those groups, you're probably not going to come last.
Yeah.
I think I don't think so. So the real question is Division 3 versus Division 1. So you have Soulbound Collective, obviously the best of all of them, of all 8 teams in those 2 divisions. Glacial Esports, that's the second best team in Division 3. They join IU, GBC, and World Class at the bottom of the B tier. And I would actually I would argue you that World Class and GBC are better than Glacial.
Yeah, I would probably say they're better than Glacial too. I'm just not sure if they're better than Claymores. But that's, I mean, once again, that's me giving Claymores a lot more credit than their record would give them.
Right.
So I wouldn't like fault you for not thinking the same thing. I just, in my mind, I think Soulbound Barrage and Akuma Claymores can just roll every team in Division 1. I don't know in what kind of situation we would play the divisions against each other, but I think Division 3 would 100% win. Now, you made the comment that which teams could Lost Collective and Akuma Halberds beat consistently, and I said none of them. It's kind of a similar situation with Glacial and Akuma, right? Or Glacial and Claymores, because I said, the Claymores would roll that whole division, not reliably enough to where I would bet money on it or anything, right? Maybe the Bisons take a series off Claymores. I don't know. But are we ever gonna have to find that out? Probably. I mean, they're probably both making it into the postseason, so I guess maybe they'll meet up. I don't know. I just feel like Division 3 is a little bit better than Division 1. But World Class Esports are on an absolute tear. Bisons turned out to be way better than I thought they'd be. I still don't think they're better in Division 3, but it's pretty close. So
yeah, okay. So, but we're definitely in agreement. Those are the bottom 2 divisions.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's call that a win and move on.
Yeah,
I think I'm still gonna stick with Division 3's the worst. Division 1's a little bit better as an overall division, but all right. Between Division 2 and Division 4, I have to give it to Division 2. I think that they are the better overall squad with Aquatics and Glaive. I think that Glaive would give Conviction a run for their money. I don't know which one of those squads would win, but I definitely think that Aquatics beats Omega Gaming Silence. And then you look at the bottom half, Striking Viper High Table is gonna be Akuma Halberds and Aquanus. I don't think either of those teams are gonna beat Striking Viper, because Striking Viper, if you want to talk about a renowned organization, that's a pretty known organization as well. Northwood University, unfortunately, might be the worst team in the league. I don't know. They could also just have the classic, unfortunate circumstances where they found themselves in Division 2, the hardest division. But even if you want to, say Mad City, right? Mad City was getting their butts kicked, and I think Mad City looked better than the Halberds and Aquanus.
Yeah, it's certainly a fair point, and if you're watching this and you're a Northwood fan or anything, when we're doing tier lists, we're not gonna give very much regard to a team that just joined the league and hasn't won a game yet. Maybe they're fantastic, I don't know, but we're not gonna rank them high in a tier list. We talked about this week 1 too. We're not gonna rank you high in a tier list if you don't have any wins, right? We're analysts. We're smart enough to say, a team is different than their record, but the reality is you don't have a record. You have 1 game. So we're not going to rank you higher in a tier list.
Yeah, and this is what we said in week 2. This is a dynamic tier list. This is not a static tier list. This does not stay the same. This is a week-to-week basis, and we have 3 weeks to figure out a lot of these teams, so we have a good read on them. Northwood, we don't know. Omega Gaming Silence, we do know. Even though they're relatively new, they've played 3 series, and that is really good for them. Gothboy Click, very hard to tell where they go, because we haven't seen enough out of them yet. But I still think that they, you just can't go 0-2 in a series and get away with it.
Yeah, for sure. And once again, it's in Division 2, so maybe, like you said, maybe they're just drop that series because they're in a very competitive division. that's fine. If you're a Northwood fan, you want to say, hey, man, we just lost because we're in a competitive. Cool. Like, that's
agree
cool.
with you.
Yeah, I agree with you. That sucks, man. Yikes. But at the end of the day, we're not going to, like, I don't know, give you the benefit of the doubt for no reason or something. I don't know. But, yeah, Division 2, definitely the top. I don't know. I mean, I think Aquatics, like, based on results, I think they probably beat Omega Gaming. I would definitely be interested in seeing that series. It's not the type of thing where it's like, but Aquatics just win. I think they probably are favored for sure, but I would really like to see that series. I think that would be really fun.
Whenever Aquatics and Omega Gaming meet each other, we figured out who our winner is. Whether it's in week 1, week 2, or week 3 of the playoffs, that's probably who's going to take it all. Because these two teams are, I would say, a head above the rest. I think that there's 3 teams that are, could steal those series away in Soulbound, Conviction, and Glaive. I think maybe they could sneak away with the series against them, winning off of some, clever strategies and stuff like that. But, all right, so we disagree at the bottom of the table, but it sounds like we do agree that Division 2 is the hardest, Division 4 is the second hardest, and then 3 and 1. And honestly, I could go either way, so on that.
Definitely.
All right.
I could go too.
All right, well, do you have any final thoughts before we call this bad boy a night?
Not really. I guess, like, we had, some salty comments in the last podcast. My thing, like, kind of building on what...
salty comment?
A salty comment? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure other people were, like, salty in the DMs or whatever, but my thing, building off what JuiceBox says, like, it's a dynamic tier list, and if you don't like what you see, change it. Like, listen to what we're saying about the analytics, prepare for your games, look up the enemy team, what they're doing, how they play, watch the VODs, all that good stuff, and, like, change your reality, make it happen. But at the end of the day, like, your results are your own. Like, no one can make you lose or anything like that. You got to own it, and if you're not winning games, that's how it is.
Yeah, and actually, just to expand on that a little bit, if a player is really, really good, first off, every player in this league is good. The enemy gets to this league by being bad. That's just how it goes, right?
Yeah.
But Jensen feeds solo queue sometimes. It's not like Bjergsen loses games 0 and 10. So just because you're a really, really good player does not mean you're playing like a really good player in this league. You're playing against some of the best players in North America. That's just what's gonna happen. Someone's got to look bad. Someone's got to lose. So
yeah, for sure.
And if you're losing, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah,
that's my job. That's my job. That's what I'm here for. So
definitely.
But all right. Do you want to do our little outro really quick and then call her a good old night?
Our little outro. I can definitely do an outro.
You know what? I'm gonna do one, and then you can expand on it.
Juice said, "Let me walk you back from that ledge real quick."
Yeah. It just didn't.
Go for it, JuiceBox.
Stay safe from that in that psych ward of yours.
Man.
All right, so the first thing I do want to say is this is an XLNC broadcast. Remember to stay excellent. Huge shout out to Jake Kelton. That is the man who owns our organization. My name's JuiceBoxGuy, and of course, Axeman87 was the brilliant analyst joining me here tonight. Unfortunately, Ebrom and Joker were unable to make it tonight. They are our other casters that usually join us on the desk. Big shout out to Risen Divine League and Risen in general as an organization. It's a fantastic org. And my favorite thing I've done so far as a caster is working for them. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity, as well as thank you to Rando Joe. Done a lot of work for us, helping us out. Focus is another member of the Risen team, and she is a God-sent individual. She's helped me out tons in terms of getting material and stuff to analyze. Hey, so if you don't like what we're saying, you can blame her.
For sure, yes.
She's the one who gave it to us. So.
Blame the staff.
Yeah.
Here's their Discord numbers.
I send you their phone numbers. We put it across the screen.
For sure.
But yeah, and everybody just remember to have a really, really good night. And yeah, remember, stay excellent. Excellency is the #1 amateur esports broadcasting organization.
Sure, there it is in the end. Make sure
Go
to
team.
make sure to tune into the Risen Divine League broadcast every Monday at 8 Eastern, where myself, Juicebox, Joker, and Ebram will be on the broadcast there. Clowning around, hopefully making some good points. For God's sake, I hope so. But maybe not. I don't know.
And if we're wrong, I want you there to tell us.
Yes, please tell us. God, nobody flames us enough in the chat. It's never.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, the levels of toxicity are embarrassingly low. But thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever you're doing here tonight. That's been our podcast, and we'll see you next time.